The champagne tray flew into the air. Crystal glasses exploded across the polished marble floor as Naomi Carter stumbled forward, her heartbeat pounding so hard she could barely hear the music anymore. She reached for the nearest chair, but someone stepped away at the worst possible moment. Her fingers grasped nothing but air. She fell. Not onto the floor. Not into another guest. She landed squarely on a man's lap. The ballroom froze. The violinist stopped playing mid-note. Champagne bottles remained suspended in trembling hands. Even the waiters forgot to breathe. Naomi squeezed her eyes shut. "Oh my God. I'm so sorry." She pushed against the man's chest, desperate to stand. A firm hand caught her wrist. "Don't." His voice wasn't loud. It didn't have to be. The single word silenced the room even more than the crash had. Naomi slowly opened her eyes. The first thing she saw was the expensive black suit beneath her trembling hands. The second was the silver dragon pin fastened to the man's tie. The third was his face. Sharp jaw. Cold, unreadable eyes. Not angry. Not amused. Simply watching her. Her blood ran cold. She knew exactly who he was. Ethan Kang. The Korean Mafia boss whose name was whispered across Seoul with equal parts fear and respect. People claimed ministers answered his calls before they answered the president's. People claimed rival gangs disappeared overnight after crossing him. People claimed he'd never shown mercy to anyone who embarrassed him. And she had just fallen into his lap in front of 500 of the city's wealthiest guests. I'm sorry," Naomi whispered, barely able to breathe. Around them, Ethan's bodyguards reacted instantly. Hands slid beneath tailored jackets. One stepped forward. "Boss, should we?" Ethan raised a single finger. The guard stopped talking immediately. Naomi could feel every pair of eyes in the ballroom fixed on her. The restaurant manager hurried over, nearly tripping over shattered glass. "Mr. Kang," he cried. "Please forgive her. She's new. She's one of our best employees. It was an accident." Naomi wanted the marble floor to open and swallow her whole. "I'll accept any punishment," she said quickly. "Please don't blame the restaurant." Ethan remained silent. His gaze drifted from her face to the silver pendant hanging from a thin chain around her neck. For the first time, something changed in his expression. His eyes narrowed, almost in disbelief. Naomi instinctively covered the pendant with her hand. It was old. The silver had faded over the years, but she never took it off. Her grandmother had given it to her on her 10th birthday. "Never lose this," her grandmother had said. "One day it'll answer a question you've carried your whole life." Naomi never understood what that meant. Until now. Ethan spoke quietly. "Where did you get that necklace?" She blinked. My necklace? The pendant. It belonged to my grandmother." "Did she buy it?" "I don't know." "Who gave it to her?" "I've never asked." His eyes remained fixed on the tiny silver phoenix. The ballroom was still completely silent. Finally, Ethan looked at his head of security. "Clear the room." The manager stared in confusion. "Everyone, sir?" "Everyone." Within seconds, bodyguards moved efficiently through the ballroom. Guests whispered nervously as they were escorted toward the exits. Some cast sympathetic glances toward Naomi. Others shook their heads. Everyone assumed they were witnessing the final moments of a waitress who had made the biggest mistake of her life. Within 5 minutes, the ballroom that had been filled with laughter stood almost empty. Only Ethan, his guards, the trembling restaurant manager, and Naomi remained. The manager swallowed hard. "Mr. Kang, should I call the police?" Ethan looked at him. "For what?" The man froze. I assumed." "You assumed incorrectly." The manager nodded so fast Naomi worried his neck might snap. I'll leave you then." As soon as he disappeared through the doors, Naomi stood rooted in place. She wanted to run. Every instinct screamed at her to run. But something in Ethan's calm stare kept her feet planted. He rose slowly. At well over 6 feet tall, he towered over her. "You still haven't answered my question." "I told you," Naomi replied, trying to steady her voice. "My grandmother gave it to me." "What is her name?" "Evelyn Carter." "Where does she live?" Naomi frowned. "Why are you asking about my grandmother?" Instead of answering, Ethan reached into his jacket and carefully removed a worn leather wallet. From inside he pulled an old photograph. Its edges were faded. The picture showed a smiling Korean family. A man, a woman, a little girl of about 7. And beside them, a teenage Ethan. He pointed to the little girl's neck. Naomi leaned closer. Her breath caught. The child was wearing the exact same silver phoenix pendant. No. She looked down at her own necklace. Then back at the photograph. The pendants were identical. This can't be possible, she whispered. My sister disappeared 20 years ago, Ethan said quietly. That pendant disappeared with her. Naomi's heart pounded. I've never even been to Korea before 6 months ago. I'm aware. Then how could I have? That's what I intend to find out. Silence settled between them. Finally, Naomi shook her head. I think you've mistaken me for someone else. I don't know anything about your sister. I believe you. She blinked. You do. I believe you don't know. His answer only confused her more. If you think I'm innocent, then why are we still talking? Because someone else does know. My grandmother? He nodded once. Naomi folded her arms. You expect me to bring my 74-year-old grandmother to meet the most feared mafia boss in Korea? I expect nothing. Then what do you want? Ethan's expression softened just enough to surprise her. I want the truth. For a brief moment, she didn't see the ruthless man everyone feared. She saw someone exhausted. Someone carrying years of unanswered questions. Before Naomi could respond, one of Ethan's guards hurried toward him. Boss. Ethan turned. What is it? The guard lowered his voice. We've got a problem. What kind? We intercepted communications 10 minutes ago. He glanced uneasily at Naomi. They know about the waitress. Ethan's eyes darkened. Who? The Han Syndicate. Naomi looked between them. I don't understand. The guard hesitated before speaking. They're already asking why you cleared an entire ballroom for one waitress. Ethan looked directly at Naomi. They're going to assume you matter to me. But I don't. They won't believe that. A chill crept down Naomi's spine. What happens if they don't? Ethan's jaw tightened. They'll come after you. Naomi stared at him, certain this had to be some kind of nightmare. Just 30 minutes ago, she had been worried about finishing her shift without spilling champagne. Now one of the most dangerous men in Korea was telling her another criminal organization might be hunting her because she had accidentally fallen into his lap. She let out a nervous laugh. This is insane. It is. So, what do I do? Before Ethan could answer, the ballroom doors burst open. A terrified young waiter stumbled inside, his face drained of color. Mr. Kang, he shouted, struggling to catch his breath. There's someone outside asking for the waitress. Naomi frowned. Asking for me? The waiter nodded frantically. They said, if you don't hand her over willingly. He swallowed hard. They'll come in and take her themselves. Naomi's knees nearly gave way. What? She whispered. The young waiter nodded so hard his glasses slipped down his nose. I heard them myself. There are black SUVs outside. At least 6 of them. One of Ethan's bodyguards was already speaking into his earpiece. Confirm the perimeter. A crackling voice answered almost immediately. Confirmed. 6 vehicles. Approximately 20 armed men. The ballroom grew deathly quiet again. Naomi looked from the frightened waiter to Ethan. This has to be a mistake. It isn't, Ethan replied. They don't even know me. They don't need to. I've never met them. You've met me. Those 3 words landed like stones. Naomi stared at him. You mean? They believe anyone who suddenly gains my attention must have value. But I don't. Ethan held her gaze. Neither did my enemies. The bodyguard looked toward the entrance. They're getting out of the vehicles. Another voice crackled through the radio. They're carrying rifles. The waiter gasped. Oh Lord. Naomi instinctively stepped backward. I should leave through the kitchen. No. I'll run. They'll be expecting that. I don't want innocent people getting hurt because of me. They're already in danger. Naomi looked around the empty ballroom. Only minutes ago it had been filled with music and laughter. Now broken crystal glittered across the marble floor like tiny pieces of ice. She had walked into work worrying about rent. Now armed men were waiting outside. This can't be real, she murmured. Ethan calmly removed his suit jacket and handed it to her. Wear this. She frowned. Why? It covers your uniform. She hesitated. I don't understand. If they're watching, they know they're looking for a waitress. You think a jacket will fool them? No. Then why? It may buy us 10 seconds. Before Naomi could respond, a loud bang echoed through the ballroom. Someone had kicked open the main entrance. Heavy footsteps followed. 1, 2, then several more. A voice called out confidently. Ethan Kang. No one answered. We know she's inside. Another step. We're leaving with the waitress. Naomi's breathing became shallow. They're really here. Ethan didn't even glance toward the doors. Instead, he looked at his security chief. How many exits? 3. Usable? Only 1. And the underground garage? Still clear. Ethan nodded once. Good. Naomi grabbed his sleeve. Wait. He looked down at her hand. She quickly let go. I'm sorry. What is it? I'm not letting people die because of me. No one is dying. You can't promise that. I can. The confidence in his voice unsettled her. He wasn't bragging. He genuinely believed it. The armed voice echoed again. This is your last warning. Ethan finally spoke. Mr. Hahn. The room fell silent. So you recognized my voice. I'd recognize arrogance anywhere. A chuckle came from beyond the doorway. I see your reputation hasn't made you any friendlier. I wasn't aware I needed friends. Naomi blinked. The two men sounded less like criminals preparing for a gunfight, and more like rivals playing chess. Mr. Hahn laughed again. Hand over the girl. No. You don't even know her. I know enough. Interesting. Pause. You've never protected a stranger before. Ethan didn't answer. The silence itself became an answer. Mr. Hahn laughed louder. I knew it. Naomi whispered, what did he know? Ethan ignored the question. Instead he asked loudly, how many men did you bring? 20. You should have brought 40. Several of Ethan's guards smiled. Naomi looked at them in disbelief. Were they actually amused? The rival leader spoke again. You've grown overconfident. No. Then why aren't you afraid? Ethan's expression remained perfectly calm. Because my men arrived before yours. Almost on cue? Sirens filled the night outside. Not police. Motorcycles. Dozens of them. Their engines roared like thunder. One bodyguard smiled. They're here. Naomi walked toward one of the tall ballroom windows and carefully peeked through the curtains. Her mouth fell open. Black motorcycles had surrounded every SUV. Riders wearing identical black jackets climbed off in perfect formation. Each stood silently. Waiting. No shouting. No panic. Just discipline. She turned toward Ethan. Who are they? My security division. How many? He didn't answer. The security chief did. Enough. Outside, the rival men suddenly looked far less confident. Mr. Hahn's voice lost some of its swagger. So that's your game? No, Ethan replied. My game ended the moment you threatened someone under my protection. Naomi stared at him. Under my protection. Those words echoed in her mind. What? Why would he protect her? They had known each other for less than an hour. Outside, another tense silence settled before Mr. Hahn finally spoke. This isn't over. It never is. Vehicle doors slammed. Engine started. Within seconds, the convoy disappeared into the Seoul night. Only after the last SUV had vanished did Ethan's guards relax. The security chief lowered his radio. They're gone. Naomi let out a shaky breath she hadn't realized she was holding. I thought. She couldn't even finish the sentence. So did they, Ethan said. She looked at him. You planned all of that? I planned for possibilities. You weren't scared. I've had more frightening evenings. Naomi laughed despite herself. It came out as a nervous, exhausted sound. I can't believe I'm laughing. Neither can I. She blinked. Was that? Yes. A joke. The closest thing. One of the guards coughed awkwardly. Naomi noticed several of them exchanging surprised looks. She lowered her voice. Do you never joke? The security chief answered before Ethan could. I've worked for him 12 years. And? That was the first one. Naomi couldn't help smiling. You should do it more often. I'll consider it. She raised an eyebrow. Is that another joke? I'm not sure. For the first time that night, she laughed for real. The sound echoed through the empty ballroom. Unexpected. Warm. Human. Something shifted in Ethan's expression. Barely noticeable. But real. He hadn't heard genuine laughter directed at him in years. Then Naomi remembered where she was. Her smile disappeared. My grandmother. Ethan immediately became serious. What about her? If those people know about me, they may eventually learn about her. Fear washed over her again. She's alone. I know. I have to go to her. You will. She frowned. What does that mean? It means you won't be going alone. I don't need bodyguards. You do now. No. It isn't a request. Naomi folded her arms. There it is. There what is? The scary mafia boss everyone talks about. I was beginning to wonder when he'd show up. Several guards quietly looked away to hide their smiles. No one, absolutely no one, spoke to Ethan Kang like this. Instead of becoming angry, he surprised everyone. He nodded. Fair observation. Naomi blinked. You agree? I dislike repeating myself. That's not agreeing. It's close enough. She sighed. I appreciate you helping me. I wasn't helping. No. I was correcting a problem. What problem? The moment you landed in my lap. He looked directly into her eyes. Our lives became connected. Naomi wanted to argue. To tell him he was overreacting. To insist this was all one unbelievable coincidence. But deep down, looking at the old photograph, looking at her pendant, watching armed men come looking for her, she knew this was no longer just an accident. Somewhere in her grandmother's past, a secret had been buried. And tonight, someone had started digging it up. Naomi barely remembered the drive across Seoul. One moment she was leaving the luxury hotel where she'd expected to lose her job. The next, she was sitting in the back of a black sedan, surrounded by men who spoke only when absolutely necessary. She glanced out the window. Streetlights blurred past. Her phone buzzed for what felt like the 100th time. Grandma. She answered immediately. Grandma? Naomi. Where are you? Evelyn's worried voice came through the speaker. Your manager called. He said something happened at work. Naomi forced herself to sound calm. I'm okay. Are you crying? No. You've always lied badly. Naomi swallowed. I'll explain when I get there. Are you alone? Her eyes drifted toward Ethan, seated across from her. He was reading something on a tablet as though tonight had been perfectly ordinary. No, she admitted. There was a brief silence. Then Evelyn asked quietly, Who's with you? Naomi hesitated. You probably won't believe me. Try me. I'm with Ethan Kang. Silence. Complete silence. Grandma? The older woman's breathing became uneven. Bring him. Naomi frowned. What? Bring him. I know who he is? I said bring him. The line went dead. Naomi stared at the phone. She hung up. Ethan looked up from his tablet. What did she say? She told me to bring you. For the first time since they'd met. He looked genuinely surprised. 25 minutes later, the convoy stopped outside a modest brick house on a quiet street. It couldn't have looked more different from the luxury ballroom. Flowers lined the small front porch. A wooden rocking chair sat beneath the window. The porch light was already on. Evelyn Carter stood waiting. Her silver hair was neatly tied back. She wasn't frightened. She wasn't confused. She was simply watching the cars pull in. Naomi rushed toward her. Grandma. Evelyn hugged her tightly. I was so worried. I'm okay. The older woman gently touched Naomi's face before looking past her. Straight at Ethan. The air became strangely heavy. Neither of them spoke. Neither looked away. Finally, Evelyn whispered, You have your mother's eyes. Naomi looked between them. What? Ethan took one slow step forward. You knew my family. It wasn't a question. Evelyn nodded. I prayed this day would never come. Naomi's stomach tightened. You know him? Her grandmother closed her eyes for a moment. I knew his mother. Naomi felt as though the ground had disappeared beneath her feet. What are you talking about? Evelyn looked toward the front door. Come inside. No. Naomi grabbed her grandmother's hand. No more secrets. You deserve answers. I deserved them years ago. Evelyn nodded sadly. You're right. She looked at Ethan. You too. The four of them entered the small living room. It was cozy. Family photographs covered the shelves. Old books lined the walls. Everything about it felt warm. Normal. Ethan noticed something immediately. A framed picture. A much younger Evelyn stood beside a Korean woman, both smiling. He slowly walked closer. His breathing stopped. The Korean woman was his mother. Naomi watched the color drain from his face. You've seen that picture before? I lived it. His voice had become almost a whisper. Evelyn carefully sat down. I met your mother 22 years ago. Naomi stared. In Korea? No. In New York. Ethan turned. My mother never lived in New York. Officially. Silence. Evelyn folded her hands together. She came under another name. Naomi sat beside her grandmother. I don't understand any of this. You will. Evelyn looked at Ethan. Your family had enemies. They still do. They did even before your father became powerful. Ethan nodded once. I know. Your mother feared your little sister would become a target. Naomi frowned. So she left Korea? For a short time. Evelyn continued. We volunteered together at a children's shelter. Ethan listened without interrupting. Your mother trusted very few people. That sounds like her. One day she asked me a strange question. What question? If anything happened to her, would I protect her daughter? The room fell silent. Ethan slowly lowered himself into a chair. His eyes never left Evelyn. What did you tell her? I promised. Naomi's heartbeat quickened. So, what happened? Tears gathered in Evelyn's eyes. It happened sooner than either of us expected. 22 years earlier, Evelyn had been locking the shelter for the night when a car screeched to a halt. A frightened Korean woman jumped out holding a little girl. She shoved the child toward Evelyn. Take her. Before Evelyn could react, another vehicle appeared. Gunfire erupted. The woman turned back toward the street. Run, she screamed. The little girl clung to Evelyn's hand. They ran through the back alley. By the time the shooting stopped, the child's mother was gone. Naomi's eyes widened. She died. Evelyn slowly shook her head. I never found out. What about the little girl? We hid. For how long? 3 days. Ethan's hands slowly tightened. My father searched everywhere. I know. Why didn't you contact him? I tried. You could have gone to the embassy. I did. They said no records existed. Ethan looked confused. My father would never. They weren't your father's people. Realization spread across Ethan's face. They were already inside the system. Evelyn nodded. The people hunting your family knew exactly where to look. Naomi whispered. So someone was stopping the search. Yes. Evelyn looked down. I thought hiding her was the safest choice. What happened then? Her voice broke. They found us. Naomi reached for her grandmother's hand. They? The men chasing your mother. They took the little girl? Evelyn nodded. I tried to stop them. She slowly rolled up her sleeve. A long scar ran from her wrist to her elbow. They cut me. Naomi covered her mouth. You never told me. I wanted you to have a normal childhood. Ethan stood. His chair scraped loudly across the floor. They took my sister. I'm sorry. I searched for 20 years. I know. I buried empty coffins. I know. I blamed myself. I know. The pain in his voice filled the room. Naomi had never seen someone hold back so much emotion. His eyes glistened, but not a single tear fell. Finally he asked, What about the pendant? Evelyn walked to an old cabinet. From the top shelf she removed a small wooden box. Inside lay another silver phoenix pendant. Naomi stared. There are 2. Evelyn nodded. I kept hers. Ethan carefully picked it up. His hands trembled. The 2 pendants fit together perfectly. On the back, tiny engraved letters became visible. Eunice. Ethan closed his eyes. Ethan, and So-Yun, his sister. He hadn't spoken her name aloud in years. Naomi watched him silently. The feared Mafia boss looked nothing like the stories tonight. He looked like a brother who had never stopped searching. Just then, one of the bodyguard's phones rang. He answered immediately. His expression darkened. Boss. Ethan looked up. What is it? We've got a breach. What kind? They searched this house while we were at the hotel. Naomi frowned. What? The guard pointed toward the back hallway. Our team found signs of forced entry. Everyone hurried toward the bedroom. At first, everything looked normal. Then Naomi noticed it. Her grandmother's wardrobe doors were open. Drawers had been emptied. Old photo albums lay scattered across the floor. Someone had searched every corner. Evelyn gasped. Oh no. She rushed toward a loose floorboard beside her bed. Her hands shook as she pulled it aside. The hidden compartment was empty. Naomi knelt beside her. What was in there? Evelyn looked up, terror filling her face. The journal. What journal? The one your mother gave me. Ethan froze. My mother kept a journal? Evelyn nodded. It recorded every name. Every safe house. Every person she trusted. And one final clue she believed would lead to your sister. The room fell silent. The journal was gone. which meant whoever had taken it now possessed the one thing Ethan had spent 20 years searching for. And if the Han Syndicate had stolen it first, they wouldn't just be hunting a missing girl anymore. They would be hunting the truth. The room fell into stunned silence. Naomi stared at the empty compartment beneath the floorboards, trying to make sense of everything that had happened in a single night. A few hours ago she'd been balancing champagne glasses. Now she was standing beside a hidden compartment, listening to a Mafia boss talk about a missing sister and a stolen journal that could change everything. Ethan slowly crouched beside the floorboard. His fingertips brushed the dust left behind. They weren't here long. The security chief nodded. Our people found no signs of vandalism. They knew exactly what they wanted. They went straight for the compartment. Naomi looked at her grandmother. Grandma. Evelyn closed her eyes. I never told anyone about that hiding place. Ethan stood. Someone else knew. But who? He didn't answer. Instead he looked at one of his guards. Check every camera within 5 blocks. We're already pulling the footage. No. Ethan's voice hardened. I want every private security system, every traffic camera, every shop entrance. The guard nodded. Yes, boss. Naomi frowned. Can you really do that? Ethan looked at her. I don't have time to wait for permission. Before she could respond, another guard rushed inside holding a tablet. We found something. He turned the screen around. A grainy security recording showed 2 men entering the neighborhood less than an hour before Naomi arrived. Both wore delivery uniforms. Both carried empty boxes. Minutes later, they returned carrying a small leather-bound journal. Naomi pointed at the screen. That's it. Evelyn nodded immediately. That's your mother's journal. The guard zoomed in. One of the men turned just enough for his face to become visible. The room went still. The security chief muttered under his breath. I know him. So do I, Ethan replied quietly. Naomi looked between them. Who is he? Ethan's expression darkened. Someone I buried. Naomi blinked. What does that mean? It means... His eyes never left the screen. He was supposed to be dead. No one spoke. The man's name was Victor Cho. Years earlier, he had betrayed Ethan's organization by selling information to rival syndicates. According to every report, Victor had died while trying to escape. But the man on the screen was unmistakably him. The security chief looked uneasy. If he's alive. Then someone lied to me. And he has the journal. Ethan nodded. He also knows what's inside it. Naomi folded her arms tightly around herself. So we're chasing a ghost. No. Ethan reached for his phone. We're hunting a traitor. Less than an hour later, the convoy arrived at an abandoned shipping warehouse near the Han River. Naomi looked out the window. This place is empty. It won't be for long. How do you know? Ethan slipped his phone into his pocket. Because I told Victor the first wanted to buy the journal. She stared at him. You called him? I did. And he agreed? He likes money. What if it's a trap? Ethan looked at her. It is. You still came? I had to. Naomi sighed in disbelief. Do you ever choose the easy option? No. I was afraid you'd say that. Despite everything, Ethan almost smiled. The convoy stopped. The guard stepped out first, checking every corner. The warehouse doors creaked open. Inside, a single light hung from the ceiling. Victor Cho stood beneath it. A leather journal rested on the table beside him. So, Victor said with a grin, you finally found me. Ethan walked forward alone. You should have stayed dead. I tried. Victor laughed. But life had other plans. Naomi remained behind the guards, watching every movement. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Victor tapped the journal. You've spent 20 years looking for this. I have. And tonight. He smiled. You'll finally get your answers. Ethan didn't move. What do you want? $500 million. The guards exchanged looks. Victor chuckled. Oh, don't make those faces. This little book is worth far more than that. Ethan spoke calmly. Open it. Victor frowned. What? If you have the journal? You know what's inside. Victor's smile faded. Open it. Silence. Victor slowly reached for the journal. Then, he stopped. Naomi's eyes widened. He can't. Ethan nodded almost imperceptibly. The journal isn't yours. Victor's jaw tightened. You switched it. No. You never had it. Victor's confident smile disappeared completely. Ethan took one more step. The real journal never left this house. Naomi turned sharply toward Evelyn. Her grandmother looked just as surprised. What? Ethan glanced at her. The journal she hid wasn't the original. Everyone looked confused. Evelyn whispered, "How did you know?" "Because my mother never trusted only one hiding place." Evelyn slowly smiled through her tears. She always said, "A secret survives only if everyone believes they've already found it." Naomi's mouth fell open. So the thieves stole a decoy. Victor suddenly lunged toward the table, pulling out a pistol. Everything happened at once. "Down!" the security chief shouted. Naomi dropped behind a crate. A gunshot echoed through the warehouse. Then another. Ethan moved with astonishing speed, knocking Victor's arm aside before another shot could be fired. The pistol skidded across the concrete floor. Victor swung wildly. Ethan blocked the punch and drove him backward against the table. The journal flew into the air. Guards rushed forward. Within seconds, Victor was pinned to the ground. Breathing heavily, he laughed. "You think you've won?" Ethan looked down at him. "I know I have." Victor's laughter grew louder. "You still don't know where she is." The words froze everyone. Ethan's voice became almost a whisper. "You know?" Victor smiled. "I know enough." He leaned closer. "She's alive." The warehouse fell silent. Naomi looked at Ethan. Every trace of composure vanished from his face. "Where?" Victor grinned. "I'm not telling you." Ethan stared at him for several long seconds. Then, unexpectedly, he stepped back. "Take him." The guards hauled Victor to his feet. The security chief looked puzzled. "Boss? We'll make him talk." Victor laughed again. "You'll never break me." Ethan's expression was calm once more. "I don't intend to." He turned toward Naomi. "I'm done chasing revenge." She frowned. "What do you mean?" "I've spent 20 years fighting everyone." He looked at the hand still clutching the silver pendant. "And tonight I finally realized something." "What?" "My sister deserves to be found by the man she remembers. Not the monster I've become." Naomi's eyes softened. For the first time since she'd crashed into his lap, she understood the burden he'd been carrying. It had never been about power. It had never been about money. It had always been about family. As dawn broke over Seoul, they stepped outside the warehouse. The first rays of sunlight cut through the darkness. Naomi looked at Ethan. "So, what now?" He glanced toward the horizon. "Now, we find my sister." She smiled. "And this time, you won't do it alone." For the first time in years, hope felt stronger than regret. The accident that had begun with shattered crystal and frightened apologies had become the first step toward healing wounds that had been open for decades. Sometimes, the smallest moments change the course of entire lives. And sometimes, the wrong seat turned out to be exactly where destiny intended someone to land. The end. If you enjoyed this story and want more emotional twists, unforgettable romances, and gripping Korean mafia tales, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment telling us what you think happened after Ethan and Naomi set out to find his sister. Your support helps bring more stories like this to life, and we'd love to have you back for the next adventure.